Well, I wanted to start a foot-focused podcast. The problem was it had the problem was it had no traction.
Hey!
So
Wow.
Wow.
This episode of Bad Dad Jokes brought to you by The Plate.
yeah,
I applaud you.
Look, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I know that every man tunes into this podcast and thinks to himself in the first approximately 3 to 4 minutes, I want to hear all about foot-related issues and or sock-related issues.
yeah.
And since that's the case, we're going to give you just a little taste of that today by saying you may be a guy that doesn't care about his feet. And if you're that guy, you can stop listening to the next minute of content. But if you're a guy who cares about his feet and cares about performance, then my friend, have I got a sock for you. No, I think it is worthy to recognize that Mud Gear is the official sock of F3 Nation, and that is a wonderful arrangement that we have with them, and they are a wonderful sock. And so if you are the kind of guy who wants to make sure that he doesn't get blisters and hot spots and all that kind of stuff during posting in the gloom, and certainly during longer C-subs, longer runs, stuff like that, wonderful cushiony rucking socks that are available. And all of these things well, not all of them, but you can also get F3 branded crew socks, and that say Fitness, Fellowship, and Faith along the inside of the top. It's pretty fancy, if you ask me. As always, a portion of proceeds that you buy through the F3 Gear Store go back to F3 Nation to support the mission of unlocking men and helping them to become the leaders they're supposed to be. So, my recommendation to you, get your disgusting feet in a pair of amazing socks. Because life's too crappy to wear crappy socks, am I right?
If you're going to be a winner, you're going to need a coach.
Sharpening doesn't happen by accident. A blade left untouched will rust, and a man left unchallenged will stagnate. Every man needs friction, resistance, and a whetstone to grind away weakness and reveal his true edge. Welcome to the Whetstone, where we reject comfort, disrupt the status quo, and forge men ready for impact. Hosted by Dredd, Dark Helmet, and me, The Plague. This is where men step out of the drift and into acceleration, because iron sharpens iron, and no man sharpens alone.
And
we're
back.
We're back.
Did we leave?
Yes, yeah, always.
Plague, is that what do you got back there? Kid Rock? Is that Kid Rock?
Alan Jackson, actually. Yeah, it's a '90s, late '80s, early '90s Alan Jackson, just fresh out of the Chattahoochee.
Pretty sure that's Kid Rock.
Yeah. Hey, this has been going really well. I don't know if guys are following along. I think a lot of the episodes that we've been doing just kind of progressing naturally. The last most recent episode we were talking about vape, and Dredd reminded me if I can't vape my family, then I can't vape anything else, which I thought was
better than CBD.
Brilliant, right? Yeah, the vape from Q Source, right? Not vape like.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to say when I came up with that, it was before vape or vape. It was before I knew about it.
No, it was before it was like a widespread thing for sure.
Yeah. Because the first time a guy pointed that out to me, he's like, "Why would you pick that as an acronym?" And I'm like, "I didn't pick it as an acronym; it picked itself." But what are you talking about?
Ooh.
He's like, "That's an electronic cigarette," and I said, "I don't know what that means." Now I do.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Yeah, it was relatively new, and if I recall, it was an educator who brought that up to us, and
An educator.
well, and the reason I mentioned that is they were they were they were seeing it on the front lines,
Right.
in their educational facilities, the young persons with their electronics.
Hellman and I think went through this with a teacher who kept calling himself an educator. We said, "Why aren't you a teacher?" I'm an educator.
Educator.
Okay. All right. You can be whatever you want to be, man.
Well, so we've developed a few segments to the show here, and one of those being socks and feet, which is everybody's
Not
favorite.
feet.
Just socks.
Just socks.
Socks. Great.
The foot part of it is just, it's sort of an ancillary, sort of tangential,
Right.
kind of a thing. It's related, but not the primary.
But okay.
Feet are the problem. F3 socks is the solution.
There you go. Love it. We also,
in fact, that needs to be the new tagline.
And that's it.
Your feet are the problem. F3 socks is the solution. That's it. Malco, I know you're watching.
That's right.
We'll send that one to him.
Have you got a problem?
We do occasionally
He's
have a Q&A portion based on the questions that we get. So had
Mostly
a couple questions that I thought I would bring forward to you guys. I think we maybe have covered these. I want to just maybe get a quick rundown on your thoughts. But this is from a guy on YouTube. So I don't know his F3 name, but Brandon Smith is his YouTube handle. And he's talking about, my region doesn't have many Whetstone options. Our core age is 35 to 45. And as I've been listening, I want to grow myself into a Whetstone, but how would you recommend looking for a Whetstone relationship when that person may not be part of F3? Does that change anything, or kind of the same steps, would you guys say?
Well, we're a cult, so if he's outside F3, then the guy... Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry.
You know what's funny about that question? The guy does not clarify or specify whether or not he's seeking to be a blade or a stone or both. So I guess we need to take it from both sides. So if he's a guy who needs to be a blade, he's looking for a stone, find him wherever you can find him. And maybe if he's your stone, you can get him to come to F3.
Yeah.
Exact same answer if you're looking for a blade.
Got it.
No,
There you go.
he doesn't have to be a part of F3, but since you are a dedicated F3 guy, Brandon Smith, handle unknown, you should be headlocking whomever.
Schmidlap, here's what I'm going to tell you.
Schmidlap.
I'm pretty sure that's Schmidlap. Number one, every man is an F3 man.
Just doesn't know it yet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just doesn't know it yet. So don't let that get in your way.
Yeah. I love it. Also, question, a little bit of a different, one of our episodes we had talked about marriage and divorce. And so Patch posted a question about marriage, asking, are all marriages that ended divorce a result of oil and water couples, or are they not responding to each other's needs? And then sort of another question about how can you test an engagement to see if it would last a lifetime of marriage?
Go ahead.
None of those things. None of them. Nothing. I have no idea what he's talking about. And here's what I mean. No, hold tight. Here's what I mean.
Yeah.
Are they a result?
I thought you were giving up.
No. I was just saying.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure that in that context. And look, I love Patch. Don't get me wrong, Patch. I love you. I'm not sure he's an engineer turned painter, drywall guy. But boy, he really leans engineer. He does not lean drywall guy. So Patch, it's kind of like looking for the program, right? He's looking for an answer that is the answer, that is, whatever. If I know him at all, which I believe I do. And so I would say this, divorce, never been divorced, so I can't say for sure, so I don't have personal experience to draw from. But it is any number of a large myriad of factors that would play into something like that. Can you test an engagement to see if it'll work? No, you can't test anything like that to see if it'll work. It's a relationship, right? There is no, you can't add 2 drops of this and 3 drops of that, and then if the little vial turns blue, then you go, this one's going to work. It's work every day, all day, for the rest of your entire life, period, full stop. That's how you make it work. There's nothing that happens magically at the beginning. There's nothing that happens magically in the middle. There's not some sort of magical formula. You make a decision, and you submit yourself to that decision, and you honor and pursue that woman, and you burn the boats, and no matter what happens, you are dedicated to her and to making that marriage work. The engagement has nothing to do with it. It's funny, I got a young guy who's blade-ish, because we don't meet on a regular basis because he goes to school out west, and so when he's here for the summers, we meet quite a bit. But he's getting married this summer, actually in just a couple of weeks, and he, as he's kind of going through this whole thing, he was complaining about, she wants this for the wedding, this and that for the thing, and all this stuff. And I said, one thing that's going to behoove you to remember, and that is, at the end of that day, you are just as married, whether all that stuff happens or whether none of that stuff happens. And it's the same way as your life, right? You make the decision to get married, and you make the decision to stay married. And I get real frustrated sometimes with guys who are like, well, if I'd only known this, if I'd only known... You didn't need to know any of that stuff. You needed to make a decision and man up. And I'll tell you something. My wife and I talk about this a lot. I know I'm kind of ranting a little bit here, but if I'm having feelings in my heart, right, let's say, that are not conducive to the continuance of my marriage relationship, right? I don't even say the D word. But if I'm having feelings in my heart like that, my duty is to drop to my knees, ask for forgiveness, and to start praying that out of my heart. Because I made a decision and a covenant with her and with my God to stay in that relationship. And so there is no test, there is no marker, there is no indicator, there's nothing like that. It is a decision, and a decision only. It is a commitment and a commitment only, I believe, that will determine the success of that relationship.
Love
now,
it.
Dredd can feel free to differ.
Yeah.
I'll stamp that 100 and just add what I personally do, which is every morning. So I pray for my wife, the transformative relationship between a man and a woman. I've got scripture that I go through to reinforce that about marriage, and then I pray for certain things for her, not about her, for her, and then I do an AAR and ask myself 3 questions: Did I love her? And for me, I'm reading right off my thing. Did I love her as Christ loves me, with full selfless concern for her welfare? And I sit back and I wait for God to show me where I failed to do that. Then I ask, did I honor her, which means reservation to her of all my sexual energy and interest, all of it. Sit back, wait for God to show me. Then I ask whether I protected her from anything that could physically or emotionally harm her. Those are 3 questions I ask. And I ask the Lord to show me, just the same way we would have an AR anywhere. What should I sustain? What should I improve? And He does. My firm belief is that if you, in the way Helmut just described, if you're a man committed to marriage, your marriage will withstand anything. If you have made the decision that you're not leaving under any circumstances, up to and including Hosea circumstances. If you have made that commitment and you're going to fight for it and continue to love, honor, and protect her, that marriage is bulletproof, in my opinion. And that's
Agreed.
really not F3 leadership. That's really just my
That's
faith.
just-
Yeah.
My faith experience.
Yeah.
But I would say, yes, faith experience, but also in the sense that it is F3 leadership, in the sense that it, keeping her squarely at the center of a concentrica. That is
Sure,
one
right,
method.
right.
One
That's
method for
that's
doing
my
so.
method.
Yeah.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, to the second half of I call him eye patch when he says something I agree with. Eye patch.
As an AYE, get it?
AY, yeah, it's
Never mind.
really funny. Anyway, is that he said, what is it? How do you seek an engagement? It's gonna don't seek a woman like that. Other than my advice is to take Proverbs 31 out of the Old Testament. See the description of a Proverbs 31 woman. See if the woman that you are considering marrying or considering proposing to marry is either meets that description or has the potential to do so with your aid and commitment.
Yep.
And if you follow that, my son, she will be a crown upon you, a crown of glory, rather than an ache in your bones, which is what a disgraceful wife will be. I wish I knew that. Everything I just said, man, did I wish I knew that when I was 20, certainly 30, but I didn't learn until I was 40. And I wish I'd known a long time ago, which is why I'm not hesitant at all to share it with young men, because it's just truth.
It is the truth. It is the truth. I'll tell you this, too, kind of just continuing down that same exact line, right? I think I learned it, and I only say this because literally it was a week ago yesterday. 24 years. Thank you very much.
Nice. Congrats.
Celebrated. And I used to joke. In fact, I don't say this anymore because I don't think my wife thinks it's as funny as I used to think it was. But I would always say, happily married for X number. So I would have said, happily married for 23 years, married for 24. right? Because there was that first year of marriage was rough, right? Now, ha ha ha, she doesn't think that she doesn't think that's as funny as I do, so I don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
I've been married for 24 years, and she even wrote. We have these little thank you boards that we've hung up around the house, and the note on it right now is, thank you for 24 years of wedded bliss, including the first one. She was very specific.
Nice.
To make sure that
I would guess that the reason why she doesn't like it is because I know how you mean it, which is as husbands, a good husband, we're trying to take pains to elevate our wife.
Yes.
Right. And so we say things like, I don't know why she's married to me, my better half and all that stuff. And I think that women are just as smart as we are, not smarter, and they know that that's BS.
Yeah.
That we're just saying that stuff.
Right.
And to say happily married for 24 or married for 24, it's also implied that what you're saying is she wasn't happy because you weren't being a good dude.
Right.
But it also implies that you weren't happy either. So
which may have been true, but it doesn't mean that it's
I could see
it's not the point.
Yeah, it's not the point. Right.
Yeah, she'll and this is, I'm really glad Dredd said it the way he did, because he said, take a Proverbs 31 woman. And I think a lot of guys look and go, well, she's not. Okay, well, but listen to what he said. Does she have the potential to be with your help? Right. That's because she ain't going to be necessarily when you first marry her. You ain't exactly the moral equivalent of on the husband side, right? When you first get there, right? So it's with each other's help, and I think that's really important for guys to remember, is that she's not a thing that you acquire. She's not the next checkbox, right? It's not got married, okay. Now what are we on to? Mm-hmm. No, this is a team up for the rest of time, and in my theology, for the rest of eternity. Right, that is how this works. There is no end to this. This is forever, and so I think it's important for guys to, even if you don't necessarily hold that same belief post death, I'll tell you what, that's a great perspective to have. Right, is that this is with everything that you have, and it never is going to end, and so you act until because you don't know what the last day is, right? So if you're pursuing it as though it goes forever, then the last day, whenever that comes, you're still pursuing with that same fervor and that same vigor. Another thing that we, just from a tactical standpoint, I guess that my wife and I have adopted somewhat recently, in the last 4 or 5 months, I guess. We read this a study about a 20-second hug. Have we talked about that?
Mm-hmm.
Have I mentioned that before?
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm telling you, it's almost like reading scriptures with your kids at night. At some point, they get to a point where they're like, well, we can't go to bed. We haven't read scriptures yet. You know what I mean? And that, even now, my 19-year-old came home from college and she's like, well, I can't go to bed. I haven't, right? Mm-hmm. And so it sticks with them forever. But, so we get up in the morning and my wife now is even like, hey, where's
my hug?
It's not even like, where's my hug? Like some sort of, passive aggressive mother-in-law or something not like that, right? But just more like a, hey, I don't really plan to start this day if we haven't done that.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but it does. There's there seems to be, maybe it's all placebo, whatever, but it's a thing.
It's a ritual.
I say now it is ritual.
Ritual are important.
Yes, and so irrespective of whether or not there is some sort of cortisol release and whatever, and the chemical, that's all fine. I'm sure that's true. Just like anything, you could probably prove it if you put in enough scientific studies, right? Yeah. My point is, though, is now it's one more intentional thing that we do, because it is so easy, and it was especially for us because we get up at very different times, right? And I'm up very, very early. She has a tendency to stay up later and then get up later. And that's just how look, I've fought it. They ain't gonna, don't bother, right? That's how it's gonna be. And, but it's one more way because it would be very easy for us to just sort of miss each other. I go to work, she does her thing, and then we see each other in the evening or something. But to know that as soon as I hear her up and around, I know that either she's coming in here, right, into my office, or I'm going out there, because that's a thing that now has to happen for us to make that effort and that intention to say, hey, I acknowledge you. I start my day with you. We now have begun our day together. Right, I started mine over here. You're starting, whatever. But our time together now starts now, right? And there's a lot of, we have found, just even in the last few months, there's a lot of benefit to something like that, right? It doesn't have to be that, but where you're making that sort of intentional effort like that.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
I love it.
I think it's not contractual, but practical to say, if you go to Proverbs 31 and you say, well, my wife should be all these things, you have no reasonable expectation that she will be unless you're 1 through 30. I mean, if you ain't hitting 1 through 30, why would she hit 31? You know, I mean, 1 through 30 aimed at us, more or less, for good reason. And so if that, don't take 31 out of context, show it to your wife and go, honey, this is where I want you. Because
right, yeah, get with the program, lady.
Yeah, good. Tell you what, get working on 1 through 30 before you do that.
Yeah. Well, for guys that maybe have similar questions or haven't heard the episode on divorce, I think the other thing we talked about is sort of like the purpose of marriage is not to make you happy, right? That's not really by design the purpose of it either. So would encourage guys to go back to that. We've been kind of in this sort of journey talking about decentralized leadership and all the things that come with that, right, within F3, and sort of talked about, most recently, like how do we have an organization where our mission is really difficult to measure and likely not even measurable, and then also talking about, how do we continue to articulate our vision in a way that can persuade other people to get on board and that sort of thing. And I think kind of underneath that is maybe positive habit transfer, but would love to sort of, kind of relating to what we were just talking about with our M's, right? If, you see potential and your job is to help her get there, there might be some vaping that needs to be done. But then also similarly, how does that work within F3? Like, how do we continue to keep the mission at the forefront and not drift to something else? So we'd love to kind of hear your guys' thoughts. I don't know if we go if it's different in the M relationship as it would be with, say, a PAX member that you're trying to sort of persuade to maybe get involved in Q Source, or I don't know, talk me through that.
So you're saying, how do we stay missional in the marriage?
That would be, maybe part one. Like, how do we help our M sort of achieve that Proverbs 31 picture?
You just said it. You go be the 1 through 30 like that.
Oh, okay.
And then she'll come around. Trust me. Yeah. I think I don't want to make sure I understand, but like, I caution a little here. It sounds like, maybe this is what you're saying, but it sounds like you're saying kind of almost like, how do I fix my wife? Or how do I make her what I want her to be? And I'm not sure that I understand or agree with that. So help me out.
Yeah. I think that's an important piece to cover, and I think we've touched on it a few times too, right? Because the same thing can happen with another guy, right? How do I?
You're not married to another guy.
Well, yes. If I'm trying to change
Maybe.
somebody, right? If I'm sort of like change, persuasion, and like manipulation versus truly out of love, wanting to, I think it's positive habit transfer is what you're trying to do, but it gets a little bit confusing. And I know I've heard some guys say, well, targeting, correction, persuasion doesn't,
all those things.
Yeah. So I guess in my mind is if you're doing it out of a place of love, then how do you do it correctly to sort of help?
Out of a place of love, and the reason I said it the way I said it is because I want to make sure that I'm understanding it and that it's clear.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to get a guy to become something that I want him to be, or if I'm trying to get my wife to become something that I want her to be, I think we're headed in a weird place. I think that's not a good place.
Yeah.
If you want to persuade a guy to become what he's supposed to become, right, and to fulfill his creation to the measure to which he has been created.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be focused on selflessly giving yourself to your wife so that she can become what she's supposed to become and fulfill her duties, responsibilities, and the measure of her creation, then I think you might be onto something.
Yeah.
I think we've confused those two a lot.
Yeah.
And we conflate them sometimes. And it's like, no, I know what you need, and so I will tell you what you should be.
Right.
Rather than, I know what you need, and what you need is to be you. And so let me help you to get there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I think that's a really important distinction that you called out, because right, as a guy in checklist recovery, I want to find the perfect checklist so that I can tell you to use the perfect checklist to become, because I want to control the outcome, and part of that might be controlling other people, but I'm sort of learning over the years. So what does that look like? Or how is it essentially me just helping you figure out who you are, whether that be my M, or maybe it's another guy in a Whetstone or Shieldlock relationship?
So it's kind of an odd thing, and I think I'm going to write my next collision learner about this because you guys aren't golfers, right? Neither one of you.
Mm-mm.
So I'll just quickly recap.
You saw me at Top Golf. You know I ain't no golfer.
That's so U.S.
Oh,
Open.
yeah, that's
U.S. Open was played this past weekend. It's generally, it's played Father's Day, so kind of tradition, right? So the guy that won it, his name J.J. Spawn. He was not an unknown, but he had never won a major before, and he's a young guy. And he, one of the things you love about golf is that when the winner is coming up to 18th and he's clear he's going to win, his wife comes down to the 18th green. He's usually got young children. It's very common, and his family is there. It's pretty one of the things that's unique about golf, and so what was extra cool about this thing was this dude should not have won this tournament. He bogeyed 5 of the first 9 holes, which is insanely bad. He hit a shot, I mean a great shot, that actually hit the flagpole and bounced back like 50 feet off the green. If he hadn't hit the flagpole, he would have ended up probably with a birdie. But instead he ended up with a bogey. That's a 2-shot swing. In the U.S. Open, that's a huge thing. So what caught my attention...
The margins ain't exactly wide, right?
Right.
A stroke
right.
here and a stroke there makes a huge difference.
He won at 1 under. He was the only guy under par. So that's the U.S. Open. That's the way the U.S. Open is set up. So, and you're watching this guy grind, and he didn't lose hope. I knew the guy's name, but I didn't really watch him play. The thing I started watching was his caddy. So the player, early 30s, young dude. Caddy, probably my age, probably 60, early 60s. And this guy was just doing all the things caddy does. So caddy carries your bag, obviously, that's the bottom line. But when the player, JJ, was struggling, man, that guy was just, his arm around him, was just talking to him. And, JJ's nodding his head, like, just stick it out. Well, he had a 40 on the front 9. A 40, which is unbelievably high for a professional golfer in any tournament. And he had a 32 on the back, which is unbelievable, an 8-shot swing. Because on the back 9, it absolutely flipped. He just started playing lights out compared to everybody else, and just scrambled his way back, and everybody else started to fall when the dust settled. He's standing there on the 18th green with a chance to win the tournament. He's got a 65-foot putt, which is, he's basically got to hit, he's got a 2-putt from there to tie. Maybe 2-putt to win. So he's 1 stroke ahead. But he's got a 2-putt. It had been raining the whole back 9, like torrential downpours. They had a suspended play, whatever. His caddy, the same guy who's been encouraging him, holding the umbrella over the guy's head. So you're watching him do that, holding the umbrella on him. And on the 18th green, he's got this 65-foot putt. It's got a huge break to it. Caddy's helping him line it up, telling him what, it's like,
no way that this should have worked.
hits a 65-foot putt downhill.
No.
Drops in. Wow. And the caddy, for some reason I'm watching this caddy, he just leaps in the air. And, just absolutely unadulterated joy. Hugs the guy. And then he walks backwards. And there's this great shot of him half turned while the player is now himself being cheered. And later on in the locker room, and of course the players' kids run up later on in the locker room. One of the kids runs up to the caddy and hugs him around his leg. So the caddy knew the family. So I'm watching this guy, and as he leans over the guy to sign to get to sign the scorecard, his crucifix comes out of his shirt. The caddy is hanging down. There's no better advertisement for what a Christian man should be in the life of another man than that. When first of all, he carried the burden, carried the guy's clubs for him. Caddy 60, players 30. That's his job. When the player is struggling, fighting through obstacles, probably thinking, I'm falling back, I'm out of this thing, I might as well quit. Caddy's like, you never know, man. It's a U.S. Open. I mean, guys go up and they come down. Just keep playing. Just keep playing. You have just right, exhorting him, carrying, exhorting. When the rains are coming down, caddy's got the umbrella out, holding it over the player, protecting. Right. On the 18th green, when he's got this crazy putt he's got to make, counseling. And then when he makes the shot, celebrating joyfully. Not just because it's a good payday for him and, whatever. Because the player he loves has now achieved something that is incredibly rare in the life of even a professional golfer. Just the epitome of a golfer's career. Maybe the Masters, maybe the U.S. Open, depends who you talk to. But this is something that this guy can now put on his golfer manhood resume. Nobody can ever take it away from him. And I thought about those elements, right? Exhorting, right, through the obstacles. Protecting from the rains that come. Counseling, right? Mm-hmm. And celebrating. And I think I tweeted out this morning, I said, watching that's who I want to be in the life of other men. Particularly the younger guy, right? This guy, because all these caddies are good golfers. He's probably a scratch golfer. Probably when he was young, he thought, with a break here or there, maybe putt a little better, he could be it. Didn't work for him. Didn't happen for him.
He could have been Uncle Rico in it, right? Bitter.
Yeah, that's right. He could have been Uncle Rico. But that's very true of most caddies. Is they aren't just a guy. Oh, I never played before. Oh, of course not. They're good. They just weren't good enough. Mm-hmm. And so instead of being the guy, they became the guy for the guy. So I'm trying to answer the question with that. Having watched that, I just thought, if I can be that for a younger man, Blade, whatever he is, now that I'm 61, whatever incredible thing I was ever going to do, I didn't do anything incredible. I'm never going to do anything incredible. I'm not going to win the U.S. Open of anything in my life, but I certainly could be the guy that exhorts, that protects, that counsels and celebrates for a younger man who does do that. And my hope would be I'd take exactly this amount of joy that guy did.
Just making such good points. It's funny because as you were describing this scene, the thought that I had was, oh, that guy's an emeritus.
Yeah, maybe so, but not.
Right.
But no, because he never. It's not like he's a guy who won the U.S. Open in his own right.
Fair. But I'm just saying, right?
But I get your point.
Yeah, the idea there though is that this guy who came before and this guy who is now, his job is to pour all his energy into, and right. It's funny because I literally just wrote this morning, because I've been thinking a lot about how we are going to shape F3 to build and to be this legacy organization and to help men to fulfill their purpose and all that kind of stuff, right? And what it is we are for. And I mean, like legitimately, these remember I've talked about my shower notes, right? This is my waterproof paper here. That's what it is, right? And
nice. And
I legitimately wrote this. I said, the problem is we have not learned this discipleship process yet. Yeah. We have not ingrained it into the fabric of F3 yet. It's this whetstoning process. It's exactly what Dredd is talking about, which is whatever that thing is that I'm, 43 feet down the road from, age-wise, child development, like my kids are little, whatever it is, right? Age isn't as important stage of life, whatever the thing, right? So I'm kind of in this next phase that we see a lot of guys who come and they serve as a first FQ, or they serve as a Nantan, or they serve in whatever way. And when that service is over, they disappear.
Yeah.
Because they think there's nothing left for them to do. They think they've achieved whatever they were supposed to achieve. Now they've got to find some other organization to pour their life or their heart into. And we've got to change this fabric within F3 so that there's a clearer understanding of what we're actually doing. You only served in those things so that you knew enough to do this next part that Dredd literally just described to you. And so I wrote that what we have to do is we've got to have enough function, enough process, right? A little bit of training, a little bit of procedure, right? But enough of that so that every willing emeritus, and I wrote emeritus because that was in in my mind, it was just, but it doesn't have to be a Nantan. Whatever, life emeritus, right? Whatever that thing is, the next thing, to be in this next phase. And that's the ultimate promotion that a man can receive. That's what I wrote this morning as I'm writing my little shower thoughts, right? The ultimate promotion is to have enough leadership experience, right? Have failed enough times, whatever it might be, that you can do exactly what Dredd just described, that you can put your arm around a guy. And now I say this again, I'd say it if he wasn't on the podcast with us, right? But I definitely feel like that's what's happened to me. Mm-hmm. That is my experience to a T. I almost got a little misty because that is my experience to a T as Dredd has held the umbrella over my head more than once to get me out of the golf cart, right?
It's funny that it's a golf cart.
It is funny, isn't it? It is
funny,
kind of funny.
it's funny.
That's a whole thing that we'll explain another time. But but and has been there when I've been looking at a 65-foot putt and going, I got to be honest, I don't think I have this in me. Mm-hmm. And he just he'll grab you by the ears and just look you in the face and go, hey, you know what this looks like. It's a 30-foot putt twice. Quit whining, get in there, get to work, right? And or however he said, whatever he would say in that moment, right? And that is the ultimate promotion. That is the promotion we're all looking for. Just to have enough, you have served in those capacities so that we have enough experience so that now we get to walk down the mountain and explain to men the exact path to say, I know the way up. Now you may crawl sometimes, you may walk, you may have to dodge, and it's been raining, so the path may be a little bit different. Some parts are overgrown now on the way, I don't know, but I know where the top is, and I will walk with you up, and we'll get there. I promise. I promise. You're like, but it's a 500-foot nut. It's 1,000-mile. It's a 1-mile journey 1,000 times, and I'm standing right here, and we're going to make it. Right? I mean, if there's a better, if we could really get that into the hearts of every F3 man and really inculcate that into the fabric of who we are as an organization. In fact, I just looked this up today too. We according to the ChatGPT, for whatever that's worth, we, F3 Nation, I'm serious about this, right? F3 Nation is number 5 potentially. Freemasons, Knights of Columbus, a couple others that have been around. All of those have been around for over 100 years. All of them are declining in membership. We are the 5th largest all-male organization that exists. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. That is not a, like, unless you want to go like, oh, well, what about a men's group at church? And you can make it as vague as you like, right? I could argue that, yes, in our church, the all-male organization is much larger in that sense, but not from a.
It's not a separate. It's not a separate organization.
Exactly.
Members.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I see your point.
That's my point, right? So in this sort of and there's a lot of numbers, a lot of reasons for that, and I'm going to be writing about them in a feature that's coming to the website, the Nantan blog. But that's not neither here nor there. But my point is to say that is you've got this thing that is growing. It's an idea that has become a movement that has just enough organization, right, to keep this thing moving forward. But this movement continues to go, and if we can get that idea that Dredd just described down into the hearts of every man, and we realize that that's the ultimate promotion, that's what we're shooting for. Is to become this whetstone for as many men as God will allow us to touch. Then
I love
then we will have succeeded.
I love your comment, Dark, about the 5, the organizations, because I think one thing that F3 is really good at is we get a lot of advice from the outside and align ourselves. And your Nantan ship, we've done it much more than I did or Slaughter did. And I just, because to put the end on this whole thing about JJ Spawn, I looked up his caddy just now. Mark Cairns, Carens is his name. He was a professional golfer, and he was on the mini tour, and he won a couple of local tournaments, but he was never great. By his early 30s, he said he recognized that his greatest impact was from guiding others, and became a permanent caddy. Wow. So that's pretty well, right? Now, so that was Sunday. Saturday, I was listening to Art of Manliness, which we are aligned with.
Indeed.
Dark has appeared on that podcast most recently, and I believe that what is promulgated by Art of Manliness from their philosophical viewpoint is the same as ours. But the episode happened to be a guy who wrote a book called "Men Don't Run in the Rain." If you've heard that. And it's
I only saw you tweet about it, but I don't.
It's a guy my age whose father was a football coach, college football coach, high school college football coach, and he just distilled all these leadership lessons from this guy down to, and they're great. But men don't run in the rain means, if his dad would say, it didn't matter if it was rain, his father walked, like you get wet.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Right.
I was we run in the rain all the time, but I get what you're saying, like to avoid the rain. Right. Yeah, somehow running's going to, I got it.
Right. And I would butcher's word this to guys if you're out to listen to this, because it's right to F3 veins. The guy himself who wrote it said he gained a lot of weight, he got real fat and soft, and he realized he couldn't have the impact he wanted to get, so he went and got in shape. I was really hoping he'd say, join this local group. Anyway, he had this comment where he said, because this guy's just about my age, exactly my age, he said that a tremendous amount of impact is had statistically, I don't know how I figured it out, by men between 60 and 70. And of course now I'm in my early 60s, so I'm thinking about that, So you take these two things together, the PGA golf, which I think, professional golf, which I think dovetails very much into what we're talking about. Mentorship's very important. And Art of Manliness, that podcast, Saturday and Sunday, influenced me to think. I got up Monday morning and I'm thinking, maybe I just need to recognize that I'm in a different phase right now, right? Mm-hmm. Mainly stone. Yeah. My main job, as I always said when I created the Emeritus position by becoming the Emeritus, I said the Emeritus job is simple. His mission is simple. Support F3's mission, support F3's Nantan in every single way possible and necessary. Nothing else. And I hope I've done that with Slaughter. I hope I've done it with you.
So far, so good.
I think Slaughter's done it with you. I know you will do it with whomever is your successor, Plagu. And then ask yourselves, how many organizations can you think of that embrace that ethic, that says, when you step off the CEO, whatever it is, president, whatever it is, you don't fade away, nor do you critique or harp. What you do is make yourself available to support whoever takes your place in every single possible way, and also to support the mission of the organization. That's your role.
Again, because it is completely countercultural.
It's countercultural.
Because usually what you would do is retire,
right,
disappear, which is what we see guys do sometimes, right? Or you cash out, or in the case of our church, right? The only way you're released from that top job is death. That's the only way you're getting out of that one, right?
Yeah.
So there is no, this continued mentorship behind. And just not to take it too far down a side note, but you mentioned that whole "don't run in the rain" thing. It reminded me there was a MythBusters. Now this is truth, right? There was a MythBusters.
The guy with the giant mustache.
Yeah. That they did about running in the rain, and they recreated rainy conditions and said, "This is so funny. Do you actually stay drier by running in the rain?" And the answer is no, you do not.
No.
Of course not.
Yeah.
It is all mental. It's all mental that you think you're doing something, but you are doing nothing. You actually stay drier walking.
Right.
So-
And he described it very well about his dad, about that's the purpose behind it is you don't want your followers to panic. So it doesn't mean rain.
Yeah.
Whenever there's adversity, you don't change your pace, your stride. You just keep going.
Yeah, I got it.
And so they can look at you and say, by God, if he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
You know, like when I'm in a workout, guys start with that car up, car back, lights, blah, blah, blah. And I always say, don't panic yet. Don't panic yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think it's an important leadership lesson. It's like, you'll have time to panic. You hit the panic button when all is lost. Now, all is not lost. We don't need to panic yet. So I love that. I love that don't run in the rain thing. So, I forget what your original question was, Plagu. But
I think you've covered it. It's interesting pulling.
We covered way more important stuff if that was.
I don't know.
Discipleship into it. I think there is some. So like, when is vape needed? And then I guess my question would be, is positive habit transfer sort of like continuation of a vision that's already like sort of right? We're continuing to positive habit transfer, like counting in cadence or whatever. I don't know, but just maybe as a bad example. But is that how those two concepts kind of work together? Or like for this example, if we really want guys to participate in the Emeritus role, how does that fit? How do we sort of communicate, encourage, persuade out of love? Like how could we do that?
All three. So I think if as a leader you believe something's important, and again, I don't think we made up the idea. Well, Emeritus, I didn't make the word up.
Yeah.
But the idea that the departing Nantan has continuing responsibilities, I do think we made that up.
I agree. Because you were kind of like, well, I don't know what to do now. In fact, I'm going to tell a story about Dredd, and that was he was kind of looking for something. He was like, I got to have something. I can't just like leave. I can't just like disappear. So he became the marketing like approval something. I can't remember.
Oh yeah,
do you remember that?
No, I was going to be the marketing cue.
Yeah.
And after a
that
while,
lasted about
Malco,
13 seconds. It was
because Malco said, "Please stop."
You're fired. I know you're terrible, right? But the point was he knew in his gut. Dredd knew in his gut that he couldn't just like the stopping wasn't like there was no retirement. You don't retire. So he knew what it was, and so it took a minute to kind of figure out exactly what that looks like. And turns out it's not really the best way to do it is not in any kind of formal position kind of a way, right? Which is also why I will just feel free, okay, to share this, that we also created a board position that is very similar, right? It's not a voting deal, but he's there because he can't not be there to continue to do, to mentor and to give the history and to give the color and to put things in the right perspective. And this is just so it did take a second, right? We had a very failed marketing cue moment, but
sure.
But that was always in there. You always knew that. I think you always knew that was.
I just wanted to be. I wanted to be of service, So I'm like now I'm like an old Viking who somehow survived, and when young Vikings are getting ready to hold up a mug, and I say, "That's a good idea, Leif Erikson," but we tried that in 1110 and it didn't work. So
Dredd still has both his eyes, so that's
I got a horn, But as so many things in F3, we borrow from the best and the worst. We borrow the best and the worst from the best and the worst, and we toss what doesn't work for us and keep what does. And so if somebody would look at us and goes, "You guys have appropriated more crap and mangled it up. And like, yeah, we brought it in, so if it worked, and if it works, it works, and we keep doing it, and that's what we are. That's the main reason we're not a cult. There's a lot of reasons, but the main reason is because a cult does not continually open the doors wide to other organizations. Say, throw it in and see, and then okay, all that here's that crap that didn't work, but we're keeping this,
Yeah.
and we'll give you credit for it. That's not what a cult would do, right? We are not sealed off from the outside in any way.
But again, we're not a cult.
We're not. Well, we won't know. We won't know.
We're
till the last
benevolent.
day.
We're benevolent.
Yeah.
We're
We don't
benevolent.
know till the last day. What?
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be: is positive habit transfer the vehicle through which F3 has been able to keep growing and growing without a ton of missional drift? Would you say?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because there's a lot of times where like we think we found a solution, and so that we want other guys to do it. And I think to your point earlier, Helmet, that motivation isn't really pure, right? So I think that might be a place where a lot of us need to kind of start, is just like, and just keep doing what is working in your life, I guess, right? And then as guys see that, if they are like, hey, I want to, with something from AA, right? Is if you want what we have and are willing to do the steps to get it, right? And so not everybody wants what's been working in your life, right? And so I think I don't know. One of the things I love the golf analogy, and I think for me it's just it's interesting, all of the similarities that you mentioned, but for me, like I'm all right. Don't nobody worry about me. You got to give me a fight, and why don't you just let me be? Sometimes that's what I think.
I don't know that one. Was that an Alan Jackson song?
No, Kenny.
No, that's
Kenny
straight Tequila Night. Not Alan Jackson.
It's from Caddyshack. So I thought,
Yeah, it is from Shabbat. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm all right, little gopher.
yeah.
Oh,
Awesome.
glad those aren't getting better.
Yeah, that was good.
All right, man. I got to hop.
Have a good day.
See you guys.
Edge of the blade, it's calling me sharp. Stone on steel and the dark it sparks. Warning weather, still it cries. Whetstone whispers through my mind. Spin that stone, make the edge come alive. Cut through the noise just to survive. Feel the rhythm, feel the bite. Whetstone screaming in the night. Hands on fire, pushing through the grind. Sweat and sparks leave the past behind. Sharp and ready for the fight ahead. Whetstone house till the hunger's fed.